So the main focus, okay, is on the RDF schema. And let me briefly talk about or bring you up with the RDF schema a little bit. Okay, a recap. The so-called RDF schema is a kind of language that allow us to define or to create vocabulary. We want to have a vocabulary because we want to define standard way or for our application, for our things that we want to describe in a standard way, right? Suppose we talk about last time we have vaccine, we have cryptocurrency, we have museum objects, we have TV show, we have this and that, right? That is just one example of an object or things that you want to describe. But there are many other things of the same type that you may want to describe. Then we define as kind of vocabulary, standard language, standard terms, keywords, class, or properties that other objects of similar types can be explained in the similar way. For example, let me create some. Okay. For example, last time we have what? We have COVID vaccine. Actually, it is Moderna. We do have it is friends, right? What else do we have? Football, that is sport. And I was saying that we have Ophelia, the art, yes. Is it correct, my spelling? Anyway, these are kind of actually instance or object. These types, they are more or less type or actually classes, right? So you can see that actually if we want to model other types of other objects, but belonging to the same type, actually we may want to reuse the same way of this description, right? The way to describe. For example, in you talking about some of this, but if you think of other objects, maybe there is Pfizer. Is it like this? I forgot. Yes, like this. And maybe actually, if it is not COVID vaccine, but just vaccine, right? There are even many more. And yes, okay, anyway, if we talk about Ethereum cryptocurrency, we may have Bitcoin, we may have some other thing. If we talk about TV show, oh, there are also hundreds, thousands, and so on. Football, volleyball, many other types of great games. Even the art, maybe, I don't know, girls with the pearl earring, whatever you like, and so on. You may want to describe similar things and reusing the same, as I said, vocabulary. So we call this vocabulary as kind of, vocabulary means it's a set of words, right? But these sets of words are, of course, defining classes. Defining vocabularies contain classes, contain properties that you want to use to describe those classes, describe the object of those classes. Of course, actually, they are to define the basically classes and properties. But after you have classes and properties, the way you use, of course, you use for describing objects, right? That those objects belong to the mentioned classes or properties. Okay, then I will remove, okay. So to define the vocabulary, we use what is called RDF Schema language. It is a language that allows us to define what we want for the vocabulary. And in this case, as I said, you can define class. You can define subclass. But of course, more, right? Not only one class, not only one subclasses, but more. You can define property. Actually, property is used for becoming later on the predicate, right? You can define subproperty of a particular property. So that means here you can define the hierarchy, right? That means having class as a superclass and having subclasses, 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 and so on. This means you can define the hierarchy of more general class or concepts, more specific classes or concepts. The same for property. You can have super property, kind of very general property, and then more specific property. Okay. And actually, when you talk about property, you can define, remember, we talk about domain and also range. And this is what you can still do in this RDF vocabulary or schema language. These are basic things, but further, we will talk about more advanced later on when we use ontology. There will be more, but let's look at some examples. If we talk about your, okay, let's make a reference to an easy, domain that close to us, right? Last time we talked about person. Could be a class for sure, right? This is a class. Okay, let me remove something. We talk about student. And we talk about maybe instructor or faculty or any other term. And we define them as subclass as well. Sometimes I use some notation which is, in this case, I refer to UML class diagram notation that I define things in kind of rectangle. But if we refer to the RDF model, actually, I should stick to our modeling language. Okay. One moment. And we define person, define student, define instructor. All of them are classes. Okay, you need to define them as class, and you define that this is subclass of, this is subclass of the others, and so on, right? This is what we saw last time. We define some properties such as, you can have property name, property age, property date of birth, property email, and so on, right? Anything that you want this property to describe the object of those classes you focus on, okay? And to define the property, remember, you need to define domain or range, or at least you have them in mind, right? What are the domains and ranges of these properties you define? Such as which type of object, right, that can have name. So in our domain of like university example domain, we could say that every person should have name. So the domain of this has domain. Okay, I just explain in terms of concept, understanding first, but then in the way of proper syntax, we would talk about that. Okay, and the range of name is what? String data type, right? Name, every person can have name, but the value for the name of every person must be just string data type, right? The same for age. Every person has age as a domain. Every person has email as a domain. And the range could be corresponding data type. And in those cases, these data types are kind of literal values for the data you have, right? But there could be some types of property in which, let's say, supervise. If I'm talking about supervise as a property, who supervise whom? Yes, so the domain is supposed to be instructor. I say just D, okay, to be short. The range supposed to be student, right? So in this case, you're saying that instructor can supervise a student. So this is, in this example, the blue parts here, mostly, they are the schema. You are not describing anything yet, right? You are creating, I mean, you are not describing any objects. You're creating a schema. And then later on, we can create an object. Okay, let me remove something. Okay, I think better we move to the example here. So this is corresponding to what I explained somehow, in the sense that you can see this is the vocab part. You're defining the vocab with person, student, faculty, name, and so on. And then this is the object, basically the object description or resource description, right? You create a particular student object, John, you create a particular faculty object, so on and so on. Then you define the values, define the properties with corresponding values for that particular object. Okay, so here we divide this into kind of 3 layers so that you can understand in a way that these are vocabulary syntax or something. These are the vocab itself that you're defining, and these are the objects layers. So back to your assignment, the topic you work on for your assignment. Of course, this is something defined already by RDF Schema, WT3C recommendation. It's the syntax they already defined, right? They have the keyword class, property, subclass of subproperty. You're not going to touch this. This layer, nothing you can do, but you use them, right? You use them. What you have to do is this layer. Create your RDF schema, general domain. If you work on COVID vaccine, Moderna, last time you presented, this I would assume that you create a schema for vaccine in general. Okay, vaccine schema. And then you describe, right, that what should be the class, maybe vaccine superclass, maybe COVID vaccine, flu vaccine, any types of vaccine or what, right? Just try to think. But my example may not be good, but you need to think better, think more. In this is the object layer, right? Vocab or schema. Object layer in the way that your COVID, that means, sorry, Moderna. Moderna is a specific instance, right? But the vaccine class is just a class, no instance. It's like a student class, but you as one instance, this is the instance of object layer, okay? So you already did every team, every group, you already present this in assignment 1. This is what you already worked on. Now you kind of lift up defining the schema. Okay, and this is supposed to be assignment 2. Making schema for a little more general, right? So think about the schema, and once you have the schema defined, what you could do, of course, what you already explained and described in assignment 1 should be a valid example of your schema, right? You still can revise if you find, oh, when you work on schema, you found something you can better improve, you learn more and improve more, that's fine. And actually, it could be that once you have the schema defined, it consists of class for sure. Sometimes class concepts are the same thing depending on terminology. It consists of property for sure, property definition, class definition. And after you have the schema defined, you can have instance, right? That actually follow the vocabulary of the schema that you make. So I would say, back to my example, if you have the schema for vaccine, you have Moderna already defined as one instance. You could actually define other instance. What else do we have? What did you take? What did you have as your vaccine? Prakash? Johnson? What is it? The so-called, we have Pfizer for sure. With it, how can I spell Pfizer? I forgot. Maybe this, right? I forgot, really. Not in the domain anymore. Yes, Sinovac, Sinovac. AstraZeneca, and so on. But this still belongs to the COVID type. Actually, if I'm talking about vaccine, there could be many other instances of vaccine for sure, right? Not only COVID class. AstraZeneca, thank you. If we talk about art, as I already said, Ophelia could be one. Girls with the Pearl Earring could be another, and maybe Mona Lisa, maybe even more and more and more, right? Could be instances of your defined schema. The same for a TV show. You have Friends, you may have very many other, even in terms of the series, or maybe it could be a program like a cooking contest and many more, right? The Voice, singing contest, these are also TV shows. Okay, so now this is the main focus of that schema definition for assignment 2. Okay, and I already mentioned that main vocabulary you may want to use, main class definition, of course. These are the syntax, right? We do have RDF type. In order to define that a class, a specific class like vaccine, this is a class, right? A specific defined class that you want. So you may need to use these predefined classes. Why does it work? Okay, you may want to use all the predefined RDF schema classes, predefined RDF schema properties to define those to define your schema. Okay, and domain and range and so on. So basically, your new class would be having RDF type, RDFS class. To define something is a class, you need to say that it has a type. It is a class. Employee is a class. Director is a class. Employee is a director is a subclass of employee, something like this. In this example, the same for property. This name property is a property. Okay. Remember, even in the turtle, I think someone already mentioned last time. You use shorthand, right? It's for is a. So something has a type something. It means it is a something. That is why the shorthand or kind of making it readable in that sense is the short form for defining type. Something having some type. Okay. These are the annotation I mentioned already last time. The way to annotate. Once you create something, annotation means making humans understand them. So you need to make some annotation describing your schema, that is the thing. And the way to annotate is by using comment, using proper label, because sometimes you make your class name very short, but label can have more meaningful and longer name. Even could be provided in many languages too, such as we want to make the class name student, and then we define label in 10 languages. Okay, so label in Thai, label in English, label in French, in Nepali, in Japanese, in Chinese, and so on. C also is used to refer to similar resource defined somewhere else. Is defined by is a kind of making reference, citation. You may not be the one who define that concept, but you refer to existing formally defined concepts somewhere, maybe by a standard professional organization about this and that. Okay. I think the tool, we will talk about that later because we will use something else, but we come back to some of this later on when we talk about the ontology part. But what I want to show a little bit, I think we discussed already about turtle. Make sure your schema is valid, right? So it means you validate your schema through certain tools, whether your XML, RDF XML syntax is correct or not, or whether the turtle itself is correct or not. These two are the same thing. Okay, this is the graph, this is the turtle, and actually it should have also corresponding RDF XML syntax too. So what does it say here in this example? We're saying that the superclass is called motor vehicle. It has a subclass truck, another subclass van, another subclass passenger vehicle, and also minivan. But actually from here, you may need to draw corresponding hierarchy, right? This is kind of RDF graph syntax. But if we try to draw the hierarchy, okay, let's form a hierarchy. We have truck. Oh, okay. Actually, hierarchy is better using this notation. Passenger vehicle, let me shorten. You have also van. Okay, with this way, you can see the hierarchy a bit easier. We have motor vehicle as a superclass, the three subclasses containing truck, van, and passenger vehicle, while minivan is a subclass of both van and passenger vehicle. So this allows multiple inheritance. So that means in RDF schema, it is fine to have one subclass inheriting from multiple superclasses too. That is allowable. But you need to be careful of conflict, cyclic or anything later on if you don't properly define. This is the turtle syntax, okay? Motor vehicle has a type class. Passenger vehicle has a type class. Everything has a type class, right? All these 5 classes. You can use here, right? Remember? And then to say that passenger vehicle is a subclass of motor vehicle, we do this way. And I don't do any kind of shortened form, but you can do later on. Okay, if you want to group some of them to make them shorten, but anyway, this is just to illustrate the class definition. Okay, then the same, right? We can define property. So here we're saying that there is a property called register to. Register to is here. It is a property. Okay, so the type is property. It has the domain, motor vehicle. It has the range, fourth person. Remember here, link data principle number what? Link to other existing resource. Defined somewhere else by some other standard or other data sets, right? Okay. And so this is the schema layer number 2, right? The top is the syntax, schema syntax. This is the schema layer, vocab layer. This is the object or instance layer. Then you can define some resource here having age, something. This is the short notation to define a data type of a particular literal value too. Using this. Okay. And you can have very many possible data types defined in XSD, XML schema data type, and using this. So example is that you can say that there is some object, right? Some instance having the value for the predicate models with this word overnight, which is a string. It has a weight 2.4, which is a decimal. It has the pack size, this value, which is an integer. Its availability predicate is true, which is Boolean, and so on. Okay. And if you want to use date time, check the date time formatting. Date time formatting instruction. Okay, how would you encode the date time properly? Okay. And don't forget to refer to the standard namespace for RDF, and not only that, I think I forgot. Oh, this is the instance. You need also RDF schema when you define your vocab, your schema too. Okay, RDFS. So what does it say here? We are saying that in this example, there is a car called John Smith car instance. Okay, it is a passenger vehicle. It has the property register to, referring to this object. So that means it must be some person, right? Because why do I know? Not because I make sense from the property name, but here register has the range, which is the person. I don't need to know that register by meaning. It must be to a person, right? As a human, I may know, but as a machine, it knows that this object, World Wide Web example org with this URI staff ID, this must be a person because the range of register to is a person class. So anything having this range, everything that is the range of this must be instance of a person. It has another property not defined in the example, not shown, but anyway, assume that it has been defined. Seat, leg room, and then also primary driver as well. Okay. I think what I have here further is that you see here, as I already mentioned, in RDF, you can define several language, refer to several language encoding, such as the two character code, TH, EN, FR, JP, and so on. And then you can encode multiple languages as the data value or literal, but properly say which language you are using so that it allows better processing later on, query and processing. Validation, we need to check. I didn't check. Last year it was there. Sometimes some of these tools may come and go, right? Some available online tool may be valid, available now before, but not anymore. So you could try whether this is still valid or not. Then it can help you validate total syntax easily too. Okay, I think that as of now, just some recap and then more explanation about RDF schema. So you are ready for your assignment 2. That's the point.